KFC is more than a fast food giant, it's a tale of power struggles, corporate betrayal, and secrets buried beneath the skin. While the world sees a smiling colonel on a bucket of chicken, few know the truth behind the brand's rise. From violent beginnings and courtroom battles to mutant chicken rumors and international scandals, KFC's history is far from finger-licking clean. These 10 shocking facts uncover the dark legacy behind one of the most iconic names in fast food. Number 1. The Colonel vs. KFC, how Sanders sold his empire and declared war on it. In 1964, at age 73, Colonel Harland Sanders sold Kentucky Fried Chicken for $2 million, around $20 million today, to a group led by lawyer John Y. Brown Jr. and investor Jack Massey. Though he remained the brand's public face, Sanders had no control over the company after the deal. He soon despised what KFC became. The new owners switched to frozen chicken, pre-made spice mixes, and faster cooking methods. In a 1976 New York Times interview, Sanders slammed the food as "goddamn slop in a bucket." Enraged, he sued KFC for misrepresenting his image and recipes. He also opened a competing restaurant called Claudia Sanders Dinner House, using his original formula. KFC fired back with lawsuits, leading to a bitter legal battle. Though they settled, Sanders never forgave what they did to his brand. "They've turned my chicken into crap," he said. Until his death in 1980, the Colonel routinely trashed KFC, becoming a rare founder who openly attacked the company he helped create. Number 2. Gunfights and gasoline, the violent origins of KFC. Before chicken, Harland Sanders ran a Shell gas station in Corbin, Kentucky. In the early 1930s, he painted roadside signs to lure travelers until a rival Standard Oil manager, Matt Stewart, kept vandalizing them. In 1931, Sanders and 2 Shell reps confronted Stewart while he defaced a sign. A gunfight erupted. One of Sanders' allies was shot and killed. Sanders fired back but wasn't charged. Stewart was convicted of murder. Instead of backing down, Sanders stayed, ran the station, and began feeding travelers. His pressure-fried chicken became a hit, laying the foundation for KFC. This bloody episode rarely appears in official company lore, but it shows the Colonel's no-nonsense style. "You've got to fight for what's yours," he once said. The global chicken empire we know today began not with a recipe, but with a roadside shootout. Number 3. Revenge in a dinner bucket, the Colonel's rival chicken war. After selling KFC, Sanders watched in horror as his recipes were altered, his standards ignored, and his name attached to food he no longer recognized. By the late 1960s, he was done watching from the sidelines. In 1968, he opened Claudia Sanders Dinner House in Shelbyville, Kentucky, a direct rival to KFC, named after his wife. He served what he claimed was his real original recipe, not the corporate version he despised. KFC immediately took legal action, accusing Sanders of misleading customers and violating his agreement. Sanders countersued and made it personal. In one interview with the Courier-Journal, he said, "That new chicken ain't fit for my dog." The lawsuits eventually settled, and Sanders was allowed to continue operating the restaurant as long as he didn't use the name Kentucky Fried Chicken. Ironically, many locals considered Claudia Sanders' food far better than what KFC was offering. The restaurant still operates today, a lingering symbol of Sanders' bitterness and pride. In the end, the man who created KFC spent his final years cooking against it, turning a family feud into a fried chicken war. Number 4. Mob ties and Masonic secrets? The shadows around Sanders. For decades, rumors have swirled around Colonel Sanders' connections to organized crime, but few people know that he was also a Freemason. Sanders was a member of the Masonic Order, specifically Hugh Harris Lodge No. 938 in Indiana. While Freemasonry itself is not criminal, its secretive nature fueled speculation. In the 1930s and 40s, Sanders operated businesses in areas tied to bootlegging and mob-run trucking, and some biographers suggest he relied on gray market logistics to move supplies during shortages. One former employee even claimed envelopes of cash were exchanged with unnamed business partners. Sanders' comfort with guns and his history of roadside showdowns added to the mystique. He never commented on the rumors or his Masonic ties publicly. But combined with his fiery temper and taste for control, they painted a more complex picture of the Colonel than his smiling portrait suggests. Whether fact or legend, these details give Sanders an edge most fast food founders lack, a man whose journey may have been helped by brotherhood, bullets, or both. Number 5. The Mutant Chicken Conspiracy. One of the wildest urban legends about KFC claims the chain doesn't serve real chicken, but genetically engineered creatures bred without beaks, feathers, or even legs. The rumor exploded in the early 2000s through email chains and internet forums. It claimed KFC was forced to drop the word chicken because their product was no longer legally considered chicken. In reality, the name change happened in 1991 for branding, but the myth stuck. The story described lab-grown animals kept alive by tubes, pumped full of hormones, and raised in total darkness. While completely false, it gained so much traction that Snopes and mainstream news outlets had to publicly debunk it. KFC has repeatedly denied the claims, but the company's secrecy around its recipe and suppliers only added fuel to the fire. To this day, internet jokes persist. It's not chicken, it's science with seasoning. Even without proof, the myth refuses to die, becoming one of the most persistent and bizarre food conspiracies in fast food history. Number 6. Why KFC dropped Kentucky Fried Chicken and the weird theories that followed. In 1991, Kentucky Fried Chicken officially changed its name to just KFC, and almost immediately, rumors exploded. The most popular theory? That the company could no longer legally use the word chicken because it wasn't serving real poultry, a claim tied to the mutant chicken conspiracy. Others said KFC was hiding the word fried to distract health-conscious customers in the age of low-fat diets. But the real reason is surprisingly bureaucratic. The state of Kentucky trademarked its own name in 1990 and began charging licensing fees to any business using the word Kentucky. That meant KFC would have to pay the state just to use its own name unless it dropped it. Rather than pay royalties, the company quietly rebranded to the shorter KFC. It wasn't until 2006 that the issue was resolved, when KFC struck a deal with the state to use the full name again in select campaigns, but by then, the abbreviation had stuck. Still, the strange coincidence, name change, rumors of fake chicken, and rising food conspiracies gave birth to one of the most enduring urban legends in fast food history. Number 7. KFC in court, health scares, wage theft, and scandalous lawsuits. Behind the smiling Colonel lies a long history of lawsuits and legal trouble. Over the decades, KFC has been sued for food poisoning, false advertising, labor violations, and more, in some cases, with shocking details. In 2006, a high-profile Center for Science and the Public Interest (CSPI) lawsuit accused KFC of using dangerous levels of trans fat in its chicken, calling it a health hazard. Under pressure, KFC eventually agreed to remove trans fats from its fryers. In 2013, a Chinese scandal rocked KFC's image overseas when suppliers were found giving chickens excessive antibiotics and growth hormones. Yum! Brands, KFC's parent company, saw profits drop 15% in China that quarter. The company has also faced numerous labor lawsuits. In 2016, a KFC franchise in California was ordered to pay over $1.2 million in back wages and damages to employees for unpaid overtime and denied breaks. And then there are bizarre claims, like the Australian woman who sued KFC for $8 million, alleging a chicken twister gave her daughter brain damage. The case was dismissed, but headlines were brutal. KFC might serve comfort food, but behind the scenes, it's been anything but comfortable. Number 8. The chicken scandal that shook China. In late 2012, KFC faced one of the biggest scandals in its history, and it started in China, its most lucrative international market. A Chinese TV report revealed that 2 of KFC's suppliers were using banned antibiotics and excessive growth hormones to speed up poultry production. Some of the chemicals had been banned for human consumption. When China's food safety authorities confirmed the violations, the fallout was immediate. Sales in China plunged 37% in just 1 month. KFC's parent company, Yum! Brands, saw its stock fall. The company had to cut ties with over 1,000 suppliers and launch an emergency PR campaign to win back public trust. This crisis came at a time when KFC was dominating the Chinese fast food market. But in a matter of weeks, its image went from trusted to toxic. It remains one of the worst PR disasters in KFC's history, a global reminder that one contaminated chicken supply can bring a multi-billion-dollar empire to its knees. Number 9. Christmas in Japan means KFC. In the West, KFC is comfort food. But in Japan, it's become a Christmas tradition thanks to one of the most successful marketing campaigns in fast food history. It started in 1974, when KFC Japan launched Korisomasu Enai wa Kentucky, Kentucky for Christmas. Since turkey was hard to find in Japan, the company positioned its chicken as the perfect holiday alternative. It worked. Today, over 3.6 million Japanese families eat KFC on December 25th. People place orders weeks in advance. Some line up for hours. KFC even offers a Christmas party barrel that includes chicken, cake, and champagne. The tradition has become so embedded in Japanese culture that many now say, it's not Christmas without KFC. What began as a quirky promo has turned into a nationwide ritual, baffling foreigners but boosting holiday revenue for KFC more than any ad in US history. Number 10. The Colonel's failed political ambitions. Before he became a fast food icon, Colonel Sanders had political ambitions. In 1952, he ran for governor of Kentucky as a Democrat. His campaign focused on business values and rural leadership, but he was crushed in the primary. Frustrated, he switched parties and began supporting Republicans, including Barry Goldwater in 1964 and Richard Nixon later on. He even appeared in campaign ads, proudly posing in his white suit with GOP candidates. Despite his fame, Sanders never ran for office again. His political career faded into obscurity, a failed chapter he rarely discussed in later years. It's a strange twist, a man who became a global icon couldn't win a single election. Turns out, Colonel Sanders was far better at selling chicken than earning votes. And if you've ever heard a crazy KFC rumor, drop it below. The weirder, the better. We might feature it next.